If God changed your name, would you dare to accept it? Not everyone is born chosen, but some are marked by destiny while still in the womb. Before they can even speak, they've been placed in a battle, not between man and man, but between heaven's intention and human nature. A child is born, clutching his brother's heel, as if life were a race, and he refused to come in second. Welcome to Prayer Station. A teenager who knows how to cook the right dish, say the right thing, and claim the birthright with nothing more than a bowl of stew. A man who pretends to be his brother wraps a goat skin on his arms to steal a blessing. And that very man is the one who gets chosen, not rejected, not punished, but touched, and renamed by God. Israel, the one who wrestled with God and prevailed. Have you ever felt unworthy? If God saw the real you, he would turn his face away. Maybe you're more like Jacob than you think, not born with status, not trusted by others, but holding one thing no one can take, a hunger to be touched by God. Stay. Because this isn't just a story about one man in the Bible, it's a reminder that some blessings only come when you dare to wrestle in the dark. Not everyone starts their life with a clear chapter. Some are born carrying an invisible weight, a war that hasn't begun, but already burns inside them. Jacob was one of them, not a hero, not a saint. He is the picture of so many of us, born into conflict, raised in favoritism, surrounded by struggle and carrying a deep longing, the longing to be chosen, the longing to be blessed, the longing not to be left behind. But what makes Jacob's story extraordinary? It is not that he was perfect, but that he was full of flaws. A man who deceived his father, stole a birthright, ran for most of his youth, and yet he became Israel, the name that would lay the foundation for an entire nation. The question is, why would God choose someone like that? What happened between him and God that night that changed his name and rerouted his destiny? Before the wrestling match in the dark, before the blessing at Peniel, everything began in his mother's womb. Every life has a beginning. But for Jacob, the story didn't begin with a baby's first cry. It started before he ever made a sound. It began with an invisible battle inside the womb. Rebekah, the wife of Isaac, could not conceive. 20 years of waiting and desperation. 20 years of praying and crying silently each night. And then God answered. She became pregnant. But from the moment the life stirred inside her, she felt something strange. Not the usual soft kicks of a child, but a struggle, a conflict with no explanation. Why is this happening to me? Rebekah cried out to God in the turmoil, and he answered with a prophecy that would reshape the course of history. 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people will be separated from your body. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. A word from heaven that defied earthly logic. In that culture, the firstborn always had the birthright, always received the blessing, always led the way. But God said no. He chose the younger. Not because he deserved it, not because the older did something wrong, but for one reason only. This is my plan. At the time, no one knew the babies would be named Esau and Jacob. But God already knew. He saw the battle before it began, and he declared, "The younger will be the one I choose." And then the birth came. Esau was born first. Red-skinned, his whole body covered in hair like a garment. They named him Esau, meaning hairy. But while everyone was still celebrating the firstborn, something strange happened. A tiny hand reached out, grabbing the heel of his brother. They named the second child Jacob, which means heel grabber or supplanter. From the moment he entered the world, he refused to be behind, refused to wait for what was handed to him, refused to play a supporting role. He grabbed his brother's heel as if to say, "If I weren't born first, then I won't let you walk ahead easily." A normal baby cries. But Jacob fought, and so the prophecy began to unfold, a life marked by ambition, conflict, and heaven's calling. But what happens when one guy is always holding on to the heel? Grabber meets a blind father, and a brother who can be deceived. Is destiny truly chosen by God or crafted by the will of man? From the womb to the arms of the world, Jacob never stopped reaching. Not because he was wicked, but because he longed to touch something divine. But what happens when a heart that craves grace is born into a world that only values birthright and power? How does a second-born step into the role of the chosen when everyone else says you're not worthy? And if you've ever felt like you weren't born in the right order, lacked a launch pad, lacked opportunity, then the next part of this story is for you, because one day, a hungry older brother will walk into a tent, and a bowl of red stew, it will become the door to a promise. But what will it cost? Next part, a brotherly bargain and a divine reversal no one saw coming. Don't take your eyes off this journey. Some people enter life like thunder. Others slip in like a breeze, quiet but unstoppable. Jacob was the second kind. He wasn't born first, but his hand refused to let go. When Esau burst through the first door of life, Jacob grabbed his heel as if to say, "Don't think you'll always be ahead." That image, two children, one before, one after, one wild, one silent, wasn't just a birth story. It was a living prophecy, a sign that some are born never meant to stay in line. Jacob came second, but that didn't mean he was born to be behind. Inside him, long before words, as a nameless hunger, not for power, but to behold what he believed was his. The two boys grew, not like brothers, but like destiny splitting apart. Esau was the roar, Jacob was the whisper. Esau was the sky, Jacob was the shade. Esau hunted beasts, Jacob hunted moments. One was the son loved by the father, the other the son watched closely by the mother. One was praised for strength, the other understood for depth, and so two loves under one tent became two atmospheres that could never merge. While a father saw only the roasted meat his son brought home, a mother quietly remembered the whisper she once heard from God. And within that warm tent, a fracture began to form along the bloodline. To Esau, life was a race of speed. He hunted, he ate, he came, he left. Everything was instant, instinctual. But for Jacob, life was a game of patience. He didn't need to run out. He knew the right moment would come, and when it did, he wouldn't miss it. Some people learn to wrestle bears in the wild. Others learn to wrestle silence, glances, rejection, and wait. Jacob didn't need many to believe in him. He just needed one word. The word God had once spoken to his mother. The older will serve the younger. No one else believed it, but Jacob did. He believed him enough to wait a lifetime and wager his soul, just to reach for something that seemed never meant for him. And then one day when Esau came in from the field, exhausted, starving, Jacob was there stirring a pot of thick red stew, a trade that seemed small. It was about to shift the destiny of an entire nation. Because some things of great value are treated lightly, and some people are silently prepared to pay the price. Don't walk away. because in the next part you'll witness a bowl of stew, a hungry stomach. There are moments not recorded by thunder, but by the warm aroma of stew in the fading light of an ordinary afternoon. An afternoon like any other. Jacob was cooking, not just stew. He was simmering a moment. The red lentil stew bubbled over the fire, fragrant as if telling a story. No one knew what Jacob was thinking as he dropped each lentil into the pot. But Scripture made one thing clear. He was waiting for someone to return. Hungry, tired, and off guard, Esau came back from the wilderness. Sweat salted his forehead, hands empty, stomach hollow, mind too fogged to tell hunger from danger. He saw the pot and said only one thing. "Let me have some of that red stew, I'm starving." No one blames a man for being hungry. But the danger wasn't in the hunger of the body, it was in the foolish hunger of a soul that doesn't know the value of what it holds. And Jacob, he wasn't a tyrant. He didn't force, he just offered a price. "Sell me your birthright, then I'll serve the stew." No threats, no seduction, just a simple deal, more as if buying a piece of land. But this land was the promised land. Esau panted. He thought about his stomach, but not his legacy. "I'm dying here. What good is a birthright to me?" And just like that, one of the most sacred covenants was traded for a single meal. People say Jacob was cunning, but did you notice? Esau was the one who sold. Jacob was the one who saw beyond the hunger. The stew was just the excuse. In truth, it was a silent test heaven was watching. Who will value the sacred? Who will trade the eternal? What are you trading today? Forgiveness, just because you're angry? A chance for healing, just because you won't humble yourself? A prayer, just because you're busy? Maybe you've never sat in front of a pot of red stew. But how many times have you stood before a promise and walked away because of an impulse? Jacob wasn't perfect, but he hungered for what was eternal. And God, though he didn't endorse every method, he was always near the soul that refused to live small. That day, in a little tent, there was no light from heaven, no angels appeared, only one man is starving, one man alert, and one vow that would shake a nation's history. That bowl of stew changed a bloodline. But that blessing was not the end. The stew was gone in minutes, but its echo lasted generations. Esau stood up, wiped his mouth, and walked away as if nothing had happened. A bowl had filled his belly, but left a void in Abraham's lineage that he never noticed. And Jacob, he didn't celebrate, he didn't shout, because he knew this was just the beginning. He now had the right, but not yet the word. In Jewish culture, the birthright was material, but the blessing from a father's mouth, that was the key to destiny. And that blessing still rested in the trembling hands of a blind father, Isaac. That father still believed Esau was the chosen one and was preparing to act against heaven's plan. A struggle was coming, not with weapons, but with disguise, not with swords, but with goat's hair and the smell of wild game. Because when you weren't born first, you learned to step ahead. When the door won't open, you find a way around. And at night, Jacob would become someone else, just to touch what had been meant for him. But did he truly receive the blessing? Or would he spend a lifetime haunted by the feeling that he deceived his way into being loved? The stew's trade ended in silence. But the next part begins with a performance, a lie, and a blessing that cannot be taken back. Next episode, the blind father's blessing and the flight of the favored Jacob wore goat skin to claim a blessing. But the price was not the hair. It was a lifetime of exile. You want to be blessed? Be ready. Because sometimes blessings come wrapped in brokenness. The father was old. His eyes could no longer see. The curtain of night fell, but it couldn't hide the schemes within the tent. Isaac lay there, the scent of soil, skin, and memories of the hunt filling his thoughts. He called for Esau, the son he loved, the wild hunter, the one he believed was worthy of the ancestral blessing. Go hunt for me. Make the dish I love, I'll eat and then bless you before I die. But the first to hear it wasn't Esau, it was Rebekah, the mother who had held on to the prophecy in her heart all these years. The older will serve the younger. And today, she believed Jacob's time had come. A plan was drawn, not by angelic command, but by a mother's wisdom. Jacob, the quiet younger son, was summoned. He wasn't a hunter. He didn't know how to butcher wild game. He didn't smell like Esau. But today, he would play his brother's part. Wear your brother's clothes. Put goat skin on your hands and neck. I'll cook the dish your father loves, then go in and receive the blessing. Rebekah, whispering in the shadows. Jacob hesitated. He wasn't afraid of being caught. He was afraid of being cursed. What if father finds out? But Rebekah replied firmly, let the curse fall on me. And so, the act began. Jacob stepped into the tent. The aroma of roasted meat thick in the air, but it couldn't mask the fear on his skin. Isaac tilted his head. Who are you? I am Esau, your firstborn. A lie. A trembling voice. Goat skin-covered hands held forward. And the blind father, confused, placed his hand on the one who wasn't Esau. The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are Esau's hands. A moment of doubt, a touch, a sniff of his garment, and the blessing was spoken, irreversible. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness. Nations will serve you. You will be lord over your brothers. The blessing had been given. But right after it came the sound of Esau's footsteps. The older brother returned, joyful, game in hand, heart full, unaware. Everything was too late. Isaac trembled. His body shook. He realized he had blessed the wrong son, but it was also the right one, according to God's plan. Your brother came first. He took the blessing, and he will be blessed. Isaac in panic. Esau cried out, do you only have one blessing, Father? Don't you have anything left for me? Bless me too, Father. I am also your son. That cry was gut-wrenching, and in desperation Esau swore, when our father dies, I will kill Jacob. The price of a blessing was a flight. Jacob, the one who had just been blessed, became a fugitive. He had no crown, no promised land, no companions, only a new name hated by many, and a mother who whispered goodbye through tears. Run to your uncle's house in Haran. Stay there for a while. Wait until your brother's anger passes. Jacob left home not with the staff of a firstborn, nor with the robe of honor, only a stone for a pillow, and a narrow path into the wilderness. But in that place, heaven would open. Next episode, the dream of a fugitive, where heaven's ladder touches earth where the one who thought he was forsaken hears the call of the one who chose him, where a rock for a pillow becomes the foundation of an eternal promise. You think God only shows up in church? Number, he waits for you in your wilderness, in the place where you thought he had left you. Because grace often begins at a wound. No more tent light, no more mother's whisper, no more father's shoulder to lean on. Jacob, the one who had just received the patriarchal blessing, was now wandering alone in the wilderness. No companion, No direction, no shelter, only night. And a cold stone for a pillow. Have you ever thought you were chosen by God yet felt utterly alone? Jacob did too. He didn't know where he was going. All he knew was, behind him was a brother who wanted to kill him, and ahead was an uncle he had never met. That night, as the desert winds howled, he closed his eyes, head on a stone, and slept under a fear greater than anything he had faced before. But in that sleep, heaven opened, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. A holy ladder bridging dust and eternity. Jacob didn't climb it. The angels came down to him. And at the top of the ladder the Lord appeared. I am the Lord, the God of Abraham and Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you lie. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and all the people on earth will be blessed through you. He didn't deserve it. He wasn't seeking God. He was running away, not running toward. But God still chose to appear. Because grace doesn't wait for you to be ready. It shows up when you're broken. And then a promise thundered. Behold, I am with you. Wherever you go, I will watch over you. I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you. The next morning, Jacob awoke, sweating, breathless. The stone under his head was no longer just a stone. It was a memorial. He stood it up, poured oil over it, and named the place Bethel, House of God. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. A deceiver, a fugitive, a disguised son. He was the first man to see the ladder that connects heaven and earth. Not a priest, not a prophet, not a righteous man, but a man cast out by his own decisions, because sometimes God doesn't appear amid applause, but in the middle of solitude. After encountering heaven, Jacob continued his journey to Laban's house. He didn't know yet. The deceiver was about to meet someone even more cunning than himself. First love would come with a marriage trick. And the next 14 years would not be a season of blessing, but a season of humility, service, and pain. Love, deception, consequence, and a journey that would teach Jacob. Blessing doesn't come through cunning, but through endurance. You think you've seen the biggest dream of your life already? Not yet. The ladder may have touched earth, but to truly touch the blessing, Jacob still had to learn the most important truth. True blessing is not what you achieve, but who you become. When you think you're running from consequences, but you're running into a lesson. No one told Jacob that the journey from running away to being chosen is a long one, filled with mirrors. The day he left home, he thought he was just escaping anger. But he didn't know he was about to confront the darkest part of himself, reflected through the people who seemed closest. Laban, the uncle from afar, welcomed him with open arms and a smile. But behind the welcome were calculations carefully hidden. Laban didn't pull a knife. He handed over a contract, an invisible contract, written with sideways glances, well-timed silences, and verbal promises no one cared to remember. But right there in that house, the place Jacob thought would be a resting point, he met Rachel, not a heroine, not a symbol of power, just a girl leading sheep across a field. But something about her made his guarded heart drop its sword. For the first time, he loved not to win. He loved her as if he loved the part of himself he never dared to live, and he was willing to do what men like him rarely do. Wait. 7 years. Not counted by wages, not measured by weekends, counted only by Rachel's glances at the well. And then, The wedding night. A veiled face, overflowing wine, flickering lamps. Someone entered the wedding tent, veiled, gentle, shaped like the dream he had waited for 7 years. But when morning came, Jacob jolted awake, turned over, and the world shattered in an instant. It wasn't Rachel. It was Leah. No one needed to explain. He understood instantly. He, the one who once disguised himself as his brother to steal a blessing, had just been deceived by his own. The same darkness he once used to manipulate had now cloaked a truth he couldn't face. Jacob rushed to Laban, voice trembling with fury. "Why have you done this to me? I worked for Rachel." Laban answered, no anger, no defense, just a simple line. "In our place, we do not give the younger before the older." One sentence, but it sliced through Jacob's deepest truth. He was reaping what he had sown, and if he wanted Rachel, he'd need to work another 7 years. Jacob said nothing, not because he had no right, but because for the first time he saw himself clearly in someone else. 14 years. He lived with 2 wives, one he loved and one who loved him, but one of them always had to live in the shadow of the other. Every night that Leah wept was a wordless reminder. Every time Rachel grew jealous, it was a warning bell that love too can drown in demand. Every time Laban changed his wage, God, it was a slash at the pride of a man relearning how to become a father. This was no longer a game. It was a classroom. Every day, every relationship, every injustice is a lesson God was etching onto the soul of a man who thought he was clever. Because true blessing doesn't come from cunning. It comes when you're willing to learn, willing to pay the price, and willing to let God break you piece by piece. And right in the place he thought was temporary, Jacob began to realize he could not live forever under his old name. The name his father gave, the name life had assigned, the name he used to cover up the truth. Maybe it was time to be called something else. A name from the one who doesn't look at the surface. A name not based on the past, but on the wrestle that changes your future. When you no longer have anyone left to defeat, only yourself remains. 14 years have passed, 7 years for Rachel, 7 years to repay a deception. And now, Jacob is on his way back, not just back to his homeland, but back to the place he once fled. The place of his deception. The place where a brother named Esau last swore in blood, "I will kill him." Word comes, Esau is coming, not alone. With 400 men, Jacob panics. He splits his family into 2 camps, hoping that if Esau attacks, at least half might survive. He sends gifts ahead, camels, goats, oxen, donkeys. Waves of offerings to calm the storm. He instructs his servants with one phrase to repeat. This gift is from Jacob, who calls Esau his master. But all the strategy cannot silence the trembling in his soul. Because Jacob isn't afraid to die. He's afraid to face himself, who he used to be. Night falls. The camp has crossed the river. His wives, children, possessions, all safe on the other side. Only he remains, alone in the wilderness, still, silent. Just the sound of the river and the breath of a man with nowhere left to hide. Then, a man appears, no greeting, no name, just a strike. A sudden wrestling, like darkness itself rising to fight back. Jacob resists. He doesn't know who the man is, only that he cannot let go. They wrestle, not for minutes, not one round, all night long. No one wins, no one lets go. Until the man touches Jacob's hip and it dislocates. One touch, light, but it breaks him like a lifetime, snapping in half. Jacob limps, but he does not release. He clings tighter. Let me go, for the day is breaking." "No," Jacob gasps. "I won't let you go unless you bless me." No more trickery, no more deception, just a soul, gripping what it doesn't understand but knows it cannot live without. "What is your name?" the man asks. A strange question. He already knows. But he makes Jacob say it, declare it, face the name he's carried all his life, the name that means heel grabber, deceiver. "My name is Jacob." "No," the man says. "From now on you will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have wrestled with God and with men and have prevailed." Jacob asks his name, but receives only silence and a blessing. Then the man disappears. And what remains is a man drenched in sweat, limping toward the sunrise with a new name. No one witnessed that night's battle. No audience, no trumpets. Only a wound and a man renamed. Jacob, now Israel, limps away. No longer swift, but within the wound, a lesson that will never fade. Some miracles do not come through perfection, but through the struggle. The sun rises. The man once named Jacob stands limping, but his eyes are no longer the same. Last night he didn't win through strength, but through surrender and tears. One blow to the hip, one blessing, one new name, Israel. He once wrestled to take everything. Now he holds only one thing, the promise that he is not forsaken. But in front of him is Esau, the brother he betrayed. No more hiding behind plans, no more fleeing into the night. Just himself, honest, fragile, and walking forward to face the one he once feared most. Can a man who once grasped ever learn to bow? Can the one who betrayed be embraced by the very one he wounded? The next part will give you the answer. Or maybe you'll realize you're walking that same road too. If God changed your name in the dark, would the light still accept you? That morning the sun rose more slowly than usual. Or maybe it just felt that way to Jacob. He limped with every step, leaning on a staff, pain in his hip, yet lighter in his soul than ever before. For the first time in 20 years, Jacob wasn't running anymore. Not from people, not from God, not from himself. He had wrestled through the night and survived. No longer Jacob, the deceiver, now Israel, the one who wrestled with God and man and prevailed. But glory doesn't come instantly. The true test was still waiting ahead. Esau was coming with 400 men, no gifts, no white flags, just dust rising and hooves pounding like a storm on the horizon. No one knew what Esau would do, not even Jacob. People may forget words, but few forget a vow of vengeance. When our father dies, I will kill Jacob. And now, their father was gone. Jacob had nowhere left to run, only one choice: to face what he once fled. He arranged the camp, servants and children first. Leah and her sons were behind them. Rachel and Joseph were in the rear where he thought they'd be safest. But Jacob, who once hid behind others, now walked out front. He bowed, once, twice, 3 times, until 7. Not for show, but for sorrow, for a sin never confessed and a heart finally ready to pay. Head down he waited, maybe for a sword, maybe for a curse, maybe for a cold stare, but no. Esau didn't raise a blade, he didn't shout, he didn't keep his distance. He ran and embraced Jacob. There are no words that can hold a moment like that. 2 men, once brothers, then enemies, now weeping in each other's arms in a field of dust under crimson dawn. No one said, "I forgive you." No one said, "I'm sorry." There were only tears, and the breaking, a break that needed no explanation, no payment, just presence. Jacob looked into Esau's eyes. No more deceit, no more fear, only a trembling gratitude as he whispered, Seeing your face is like seeing the face of God. He didn't say it because Esau looked like the Lord. He said it because now he understood forgiveness is a miracle too, no less than a dream of a ladder from heaven. That miracle wasn't the sky opening, but a heart opening. No one forced Esau to forgive, no one told him to hug, but what Jacob could never earn through cunning, God had prepared through time in the very heart Jacob had once broken. That embrace wasn't just the end of an old chapter. It was the beginning of a new journey, the journey of a father, a man who would soon face heartbreaks not from enemies outside, but from those who shared his blood. Because once your name has changed, you're no longer allowed to live the same, and the wounds ahead won't be punishments. They'll be chisels shaping the man God always intended. The story isn't over. One arm is opened wide, but deeper trials wait ahead. And Jacob, now Israel, will have to learn how not to repeat the mistakes of his father, with sons who will carry his story further than he ever imagined. They hugged. Tears fell. But don't be fooled. This was not a happily ever after. Some reunions are just pauses, not destinations. Some people forgive but never truly learn how to love well. Jacob and Esau parted ways in peace, but that wasn't the end of the journey, and it was only an ellipsis marking the beginning of another chapter. A chapter about Jacob's son, who would wrestle not with strangers but with their father, repeating the very mistakes he once made, because sometimes you may have received grace, but you still don't know how to pass it on to the generation after you. Jacob's story was never written to glorify deception. It was written to prove this. God doesn't use perfect people. He uses real ones, the ones who know they're broken, but still won't let go of the promise. Pastor John Mark G. in Grace Theology and Biblical Symbolism. Jacob was never the model of righteousness. He didn't have the strength of Samson, or the stature of Moses, or the unwavering integrity of Joseph. But he had one thing that even the most virtuous often lack. He wouldn't let go. From the womb, Jacob gripped his brother's heel. A child is already wrestling. But what he wrestled for wasn't personal gain. He wrestled because he knew he had nothing else to cling to except for one thing: the desire to be seen by God. Jacob didn't live by principles. He lived by fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being chosen. Fear that unless he did something, he would never be someone. And that fear drove him to deceive his father, to flee his home, to be deceived in return, to be exploited, to flee again. 20 years and still living in someone else's shadow, never truly himself, never really believing he was worthy of the promise. Until one night, a night with no moon, no prophecy, no miracles, just a weary man grappling with a stranger who came from eternity. No declarations, no thunder, just a silent, tear-soaked struggle. Jacob didn't win because he was strong, he won because he held on. Even when his hip was shattered, he whispered, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." He wasn't asking for riches. He wasn't asking for fame. He was asking for a new name, and God gave it to him. From Jacob, the deceiver, to Israel, one who wrestles with God and prevails. Not because of triumph, but because he faced himself and didn't run. And if you are in a night like Jacob's, where no one knows the battle inside you, where you feel too disqualified to be blessed, then maybe that night it is the very moment God is stepping in, not to condemn you, but to rename you. He still chooses the weak, the messy, the ones who have run, but never stopped searching. And if that's you, Maybe the next part of the story belongs to you. Step into the outro, because tonight might be the night your name gets rewritten. Are you in a Jacob season right now, when you've got no strength left to run? When the cleverness that used to save you no longer works? When you don't even know who you are anymore, you just know one thing: I can't go on like this unless something changes. Maybe like Jacob, you've spent your whole life trying to prove you're enough, trying to be strong, trying to earn approval from your father, from your mother, from the world, from yourself. But what you truly need isn't success. It's a new identity. You don't have to keep lying to feel loved. You don't have to keep running to feel safe. You don't have to keep striving to be blessed. You just have to stay in the night. Dare to wrestle, dare to whisper, I will not let you go. And G, one who doesn't avoid brokenness, he will come. He'll strike the place you used to be proud of, not to break you, but to rename you. What's your name? Are you still living under names others put on you? Failure, too weak, the one who messed up, maybe even Christian, but you've never truly said, you are my God. Then today pray this: Lord, I don't need to be strong anymore. I don't need to pretend anymore. I don't need to run anymore. If you must strike my pride, then strike it, but please, don't leave me. Stay with me. You give me a new name. I don't want to live the rest of my life under the old one. Call me by the new name, a name only you know. And when you call, I will answer. Because I don't want to only know you through my parents. I want to know you as my own God. Amen. If you've prayed this prayer, this isn't just the end of a video. It's the beginning of a new name. Share this video if you know someone who's wrestling like Jacob. And subscribe so you don't miss the next revelation from the Word. Because there are still many Jacobs out there, waiting to know that God doesn't reject those who wrestle. It's in the wrestling that He blesses. You're not alone, and your encounter with God could begin right now.